think we need special forces. The idea of boots on the ground, I'm not sure that's necessary, but special forces.
It's not the clean power plant, it's the costly power plant. It would be like a buzzsaw to the nation's economy.
Even though China is sometimes our adversary, Russia is sometimes our adversary, that we do interact with these once great superpowers and emerging superpowers.
Ask anyone who's ever been in show business. Sometimes there is nothing more important than the dress rehearsal to shake out those last-second jitters. Then again, in the case of presidential politics, it could also be a deep trap where the public gets an early chance to see what a candidate is made of. Hard, cold steel or warm Jell-O just sinking deeper into despair. Let us begin with those GOP hopefuls all believing they're ready for Thursday night and to face the Donald. Alexis Levinson is covering the campaign on the road as senior political reporter for the National Review. Patrick Murray is director of the Monmouth University Polling Institute to back everything up from the numbers. I thank you both for joining us. And Alexis, I'm going to go ahead and begin with you because now that we've had the nice little extra out there, it's all out there, everybody's had their stage fright get out of the way. Now we know who has made the final 10, and as expected, Rick Perry is out. John Kasich and Christie are in. So let me ask you, what did Rick Perry do wrong? How did he fail?
I'm not sure Rick Perry failed. I think potentially coming in 11th is a little bit higher than we, at the beginning of Rick Perry's campaign, necessarily thought he would be. He will be in the center of the stage in this earlier kind of consolation prize debate, and he could actually put on a pretty good show. I mean, they'll have fewer candidates to contend with on that stage.
So let me get to you then, Patrick. Let's look at those who did make it then. Christie made it, and a little while ago even Christie thought that he was out. John Kasich is in. What did they do to succeed and stay consistent?
Yeah, I mean, Christie basically just hung on. That was a key for him. John Kasich had probably the best strategy of all of them. He waited until late July to announce his campaign, realizing that it was likely to give him a 2-point bump. That's exactly what he got and exactly what he needed.
So if we look then at everybody that we have here, let me get to you first, Patrick. Everybody looks at Donald Trump and says, odds on he's the guy that everybody's going to go after. But if there's somebody sitting in that 10 that has now made that first, or the main show, let's say, which one do you think is sitting there as the one who could break out in all this and maybe make some real hay?
You know, it's not clear in terms of the event on Thursday night, because I don't think any of them are going to go after Donald Trump, or at least a few of them will. I think the debate on Thursday night is going to be Donald Trump rules, and he's going to win any game that's played by his rules. The question is, who's going to feel comfortable dealing with Trump if Trump goes after them? And I think we're going to see the potential for Ted Cruz to do really well in this environment, because Ted Cruz does not lose his cool. He stays on message. He's very good at it. Ben Carson is also likely to do very well. I think some of these conservatives are going to be likely to do well, because I think the moderates, Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio and so forth, are going to try to play it a little safe because they're a little nervous about going after Donald Trump.
Alexis, is that maybe the best thing to do? Don't go after Donald Trump. If you finish second on the night, it's okay, but don't let yourself look foolish or be baited by Donald Trump, who is a master at what he does.
I think they need to pick a direction and go with it. I think either you need to get into Donald Trump's face, and then when he turns around and calls, Ted Cruz a loser, Ted Cruz has to turn around and throw it right back at him. I don't think you can kind of go both ways and I don't think you can take a side jab at Donald Trump. I think you either have to go after him whole hog or just decide you're not getting into the fray.
Okay, so then let's take what happened in the preamble, if you will. In your opinion, who did the best job? Because quite frankly, I saw a lot of it, and it was sort of boring, to be very honest with you, and there really wasn't a lot that jumped out, except maybe when Christie said, "Am I washed up?" That might have been the best point of the night.
I was there. I was deeply bored. You were right on with that assessment. I didn't think anyone had a breakout performance. I mean, we were talking about it after. I can't remember what anyone did, and I was there the whole time for the 2 hours. I actually thought the two most impressive people were Carly Fiorina, partly just because she actually took the time to talk at a normal human pace instead of sprinting through all of her words like the rest of them, given the time limit. And Lindsey Graham, who leveled really vicious attacks on the Clintons, which he hasn't been doing. That was felt like a breakout moment for him. But I mean, if you ask me what everyone else did, I'm not sure I can remember. It was just so boring.
We are so glad that you made it without having to fall asleep and needing someone to bring you home. Let's look at it this way then, Patrick, because now that we have the 10 set, we know who they are. Carly Fiorina is one that Alexis liked and actually got a lot of good chops. When we look at what I call the JV run, which is going to happen now before the big event, do you see anybody in there like a Carly Fiorina who can make some hay and jump out?
Yeah, I think it's possible for that one to the extent that anybody watches it. But as we know, it's less about the people who are watching it at the time that it's on than a moment that's made out of it. And I watched, I have to say, most of the Monday night event, and I agree with Alexis that there's very little that stands out at all from what happened there. So in this earlier event, I think it's a lot easier for those 7 remaining candidates to do something that makes them stick out, that's going to get some viral play on the air and also on the internet.
Alexis, I get about a minute left or so, and I wanted to point out that your article in the National Review had a great headline where it said herding elephants in New Hampshire, getting ready for this. So as we look at everybody who's there now, out of all these elephants in the room, which ones do you think that very quickly, even after Thursday, are going to understand that maybe it's time to retire to a nice little pond somewhere?
You know, I think the people who should retire to a nice little pond are not going to figure that out if they haven't by now. I mean, you know, George Pataki, we kind of keep forgetting is in the election, but he's still there and he's still raising money. And I think the fact that he still is planning to run means he's not going anywhere. So I think they're all in it for as long as they have the money to stick around.
Would it be fair to say then that you are laying in for the rest of the campaign then a large box of no-dos?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think that might be necessary.
If we have to, we'll get you one. We promise as well. Alexis Levinson, Patrick Murray, want to thank you both for joining us very much. I'm sure we'll talk again. Take care. Sure. Now, Donald Trump has a message for America, one that can be read only at Newsmax.com. In this exclusive, we give you an opportunity then to find out what he says in his letter. He goes into detail on his plans for the future, the challenges that he faces. This letter was paid for by the Trump for President campaign and is being released first to Newsmax. So go to Newsmax.com, click the link that points to Donald Trump's urgent letter to the American people. Bypass all the hyperbole. Get the message from the Donald himself exclusively at Newsmax.com. It's a chance to get ready to find out what may happen indeed on Thursday. It is going to be showtime. Coming up next, the political animal takes a bite out of the new bout on Planned Parenthood and the Biden effect. It's coming up next right here on the fastest 60 minutes in news, The Hardline.